Welcome back, everyone. Monica Bosinov and Simon Severino. Stuff is happening fast this week. There are sales miracles happening right now in real time. We have to share this with you guys. And the acceleration of the innovation in AI, which leads to acceleration and disruption of all the companies listening right now. We are all in this mega change. How do we make sure that we are on the winning side and we have fun riding these waves of change rather than being disrupted by them? Monica, how are you?
I'm really good. And what I'm seeing in the strategy sprint is that you give advice and the next morning they're outdated.
19 hours is the shelf life of our advice right now. This was the most incredible one was 19 hours.
Mhm.
So literally 20 hours ago, Andreas and a few other members in the sprint club, they ask, hey, Simon, and Sheena and Andreas go, hey, Simon, this automation of yours, how did you build it? And I say, this is Claude to make.com to Slack. 19 hours later, Claude has a new changelog item. I have an automation that reads the change logs of Anthropic and implements them and tells us what does this mean for our clients, what does this mean for our processes, and goes and implements the relevant ones. So it found out that Claude can now do recurring tasks, which it calls cron jobs. And basically, all this make.com subscription outside was just doing recurring tasks, because that's what an automation is. And so turns out we don't need make.com anymore for that. So first, of course, you can cut monthly subscriptions. And
Mhm.
second, you have less errors if it's just in one flow, in one piece, integrated, in-house.
Mhm.
So half an hour later, Claude asks me, do you want to move those 9 automations in-house? I say, sure, let's do it. And then go cancel the subscription. And so I answer to Andreas and Sheena, guys, 19 hours later, this is already old. The new
Yeah,
answer is Claude does it end to end.
yeah. Because this was the thing I had a problem with like quite a few months ago when everyone was saying 100 AI tools you must know, right? You are falling behind. You need 100 tools. And like things are changing so fast that the advice from all of the so-called experts, they're just failing. They're just failing. And
Yes.
everything is getting at from one point of view, it's getting easier. Like the task part is getting easier, and the knowing which tool to choose is getting like the avenue is getting slimmed down.
And that's the difference between tools, software is a tool,
Mhm.
and processes. A sales
Yes.
system is a process, a marketing system is a process, how you run your company is a process,
Mhm.
how you do things, which is culture, is a
Yeah.
process. Processes never change, but tools change all the time. And I used to say, don't fall in love with your tools because they will change all the time. And what I meant was, you will switch CRM software every few years. I wouldn't I wouldn't conceive that it would be every 19 hours.
But that's all right. So everything you think you know around tools, around what is necessary, about how many subscriptions you need, all of that, it's outdated. And it's getting more and more outdated. So understanding where you're going and the process you want to use to get there is super important. And having the internal capacity, right? Because this is what made my day this morning, Simon, when I started reading like the thing that I shared with you, and you wrote this long answer back, and I was like, oh, this is so soothing to my brain, because this is exactly what capacity engineering is about the internal capacity. And then you have like your processes and your systems for how to get there. But those are the things that matter now, not the tools.
Totally. So this was from the perspective of a CEO, right? I am excited that I can lower costs, monthly costs, and I'm excited that I can increase output because now
Yeah.
we can build many more helpful things for the people that we are here to serve. Now let's look at other perspectives. And I'm curious, what does this mean for inner capacity? So, a
Mhm.
developer, for example, a developer 5 years ago would write line of codes, and the good one was the one that can write 1,000 lines a day. Now they don't write lines. They just think about, wait a moment, let me actually slow down. Let me make a bigger coffee because I need more time to think. Let's go to plan mode. That's what it's called in Cloud Code. Don't code anything, just plan with me what is actually worth building. What should we actually be doing? Let's go back to first principles. What does the world actually need this week? What should we be building? So these are not typical programming questions.
No, they're not tasks. They
They're
are
not.
complex thought processes that needs to be developed, meaning you need more judgment, you need more discerning. You need more processing time so that you don't start building the wrong thing.
And you are a generalist now. You are on a strategic level. You are thinking on a strategic level. You're thinking in systems. You're thinking outside your organization. Who needs this? Who is this for? So all the things that we always said, this is business strategy. And it was only the CEO who was in charge of doing business strategy, who was in the strategy meeting. And now, actually, every single employee is called to think on a strategic level.
Yeah.
Every assistant, every programmer, every customer relationship person has to actually prioritize, think strategically, and use their resources wisely. Like the developer today, he can build anything.
Mhm.
This is where I'm curious about your take, stress level and
Mhm.
excitement, because you wake up, like me, like many developers, you wake up and you can build anything.
Mhm.
You can say, build my CRM. And half an hour later, you have a workable first solution.
Yeah.
What
So
does it do with our
consequence,
body? Mhm.
yes, consequence increases, right? Progress used to be kind of incremental. New tool, one new technology showed up. And now you could move a little bit faster. Now you can move like um, there's a lot of talk about the exponential curve of tech, right? Now we are on the exponential curve of your human capacity. How much risk can you carry? This is one of like the baseline of the work that I do with people that wants to increase their ability to make big decisions, right? Because there's always a risk, and there are two sides of risk. And I cannot stress this enough. There's the actual risk, there's the actual consequence. And then there's the perceived risk and the perceived consequence. And the perceived risk is very much tied to how safe your baseline is, your nervous system baseline, meaning your wiring, right? So if you're constantly living in hypervigilance, if you're constantly scanning for survival, your perceived or perception of risk will be higher than it needs to be. So if we increase the baseline, now perception of risk changes and you can operate on the actual consequence that you're dealing with. Big change.
Totally. And there is a similar concept in finance, which is implied volatility and actual volatility.
Mhm.
So right now the markets think that the implied volatility of, let's say, a geopolitical intervention is high,
Mhm.
but then usually the actual volatility is lower than what we thought. So markets panic.
Mhm.
We Markets have emotions because markets, it's just people taking
Yes.
decisions, so they have emotions,
Yes.
and they usually they overreact on one side. They either expect um, more positive volatility, this is going to change everything, or they expect negative volatility, the world is over.
Yes. And so here's right. Some people use cold plunges. Some people use blankets to slow down their nervous system to fix the baseline. But now it's also about increasing the capacity, the range that you can hold of emotions, of possibilities, of evolution. And the bigger the range you have, the more you can adjust, right? So you don't follow the panic. You don't follow because we're talking about a small percentage of the population right now that are living this reality, Simon. But but the course that they stake out, right? Everyone else will follow. So if you find yourself leading that evolution, you cannot follow the average of the leaders. You have to make your own decisions. You have to make very conscious decisions. Because if you start listening to everyone, the volatility will increase. So the personal responsibility for the CEO right now is way higher than it has ever been.
Yes. And usually you are lonely when you're pioneering. And that has been the stressful thing about being an entrepreneur over the last centuries, that you are lonely, you're totally lonely, you go against the grain, and you stick with your assumption, you make it happen, you build, independently of what other people say. They say, no, it's not going to work. You just keep building, but you feel very, very lonely. You know what's different this time? I don't feel lonely
Mhm.
because we have GitHub with this repository. We have the open source movement where builders put what they've built in a repository and other people can pick it up from their repository and build upon it. It's called forking. So you can build on what other people are building. So it's like hundreds of people playing Lego together, right? You build something, you go to sleep, the next guy comes and builds on what you have built, and it's such a beautiful community, actually. This is the developer community. And now that I have immersed myself in this community, I realized no, it's not just developers. There is the
Mhm.
CEO of Shopify, Toby Lütke, in there. There is the guy who invented Claude Code, Boris, in there. So there is a lot of different people, CEOs, founders in there, be- because it's a communal activity.
Knowing they understanding they need community.
I think there
So
is an innate feeling that
yeah.
we need to build this together. I mean, everybody's building theirs, but there are
Mhm.
some things that if I share them, help you, and if you share them, it helps another. And when I come back, I find it improved too, and it will help me again.
Yeah. So you need to find your crowd, a place to not just build but also question. Sometimes maybe even tear apart, criticize, and
Yes.
rebuild.
Yes. Forking is always a critique. You are always improving on what they worked on. And by improving, meaning you change things.
Mhm.
So my favorite things to study is the changelog of Anthropic.
Mhm.
Anthropic is the company that built Claude. which is making a huge buzz right now. And their changelog is public. That's what I love about the open source culture, right? It's public. You can see what they are changing. And I just before this show, I've increased the cadence of looking at that from once per week to twice per week because they're changing so much. And the beautiful thing is they have hundreds of engineers running at high speed, thinking hard about big problems. And after all that testing, assuming, building, validating, they change something. And you get to build on that. So you get hundreds of decisions that went wrong, a few that went well. It's like reading a book. You get 10 years of experience of somebody in the field for $20 in a few hours. Compressed experience, compressed decision making. And that's so valuable. It can accelerate your trajectory.
If you know where you're going. If you
Yeah.
know, yeah,
I
right?
mean, I don't know before I read a book, I don't know what the book is going to do to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Before I read the Bible, I didn't know that it would accelerate my journey as a human being, as a father, as a friend, etc. Before the changelog
Mm-hmm.
automation happened, I didn't know I don't know what's going to change in the next 3 days. But I know that this process is solid. So we're back to process versus tool. The
Mm-hmm.
tools change all the time, but the process of strategic advantage. So who is frontiering that, and how can you build a process that builds a radar that informs you about it, that implements it for you and the people that you're here to serve? So that's a process, right? It's classic strategic thinking is find the champion, learn from the champion, find the alpha, the information that's right there, right now on the frontier, that's ahead of the curve, and understand what this means for you. So that's classic strategic
Yes.
thinking.
Meaning it could potentially be another shiny object if you are not, like, if you have not decided on a direction and a process, who you serve, what you do, then you could spend your time checking that log over and over again.
Yes.
Right? So you need to be mindful of why you do that, and that's why you need to have the process in place.
Yes, this is like the 100 apps that you need to know about.
Mm-hmm.
That's a red flag, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I do it with the changelog. I don't do it with 7 additional things. I don't say, go
Yep.
to Hacker News and tell me everything that's going on in Hacker News. I see many people doing that. I intentionally don't do that. I just check the changelog of Anthropic because these are some of the smartest engineers right now. They are onto something and they're ahead of the curve. Everybody else will follow. And so it makes sense to be a fast follower because you learn faster.
But it also takes some level of restraint.
Yes, you don't follow everybody all the time. You pick your winners. And I picked Anthropic as a team a few years ago when everybody said OpenAI, OpenAI. I said, nope, my team, my horse, my bet is on Anthropic. And I stayed the course. It's the same. Also, the other thing that helps me not fall into that dissipation is I have my 4 things that matter to me and I have them in written. I don't change them all the time. They're the same since 12 months.
Mm-hmm.
And today it's March 12th. I didn't do them yet. It's 9 a.m. in the morning, so I will do them. And then I will check them off. And what I ask Claude to accelerate is these things. So the changelog will be applied to my problems that I have to solve, which
Mm-hmm.
is my clients' problems and our team's problems. So it will be laser focused to applying them to our real business problems and solve them today.
Yeah. So that means having a clear, like, values and knowing who you are serving and how you serve them, now you can optimize that using these tools.
Yes.
Yes.
Because their life is changing fast. So whatever makes us faster in understanding what's changing for them. And depending on what changes for them, we might have to pivot. And pivot is one foot is standing strong and the other foot is moving. It's never both. Then you just fall down if you move both. So one is standing strong in what's working for you, and the other one is experimenting, shifting, building. And so all of us, we are now called to look very attentively at our client's life. What is changing for them? Where do they need help urgently? And how can we help? And that means for many of us, we talked in the Sprint Club about the consulting model and how McKinsey is changing what they're doing. We have to change our offer, our pricing, the way we charge. It's not lowering the price. It's changing the way we charge. So from charging for time to charging for results, from charging per seat to charging per outcome. Those are all patterns that we are working on with our one-on-one clients. And we've been discussing this in the Sprint Club. We all need to adapt and change in that direction. Otherwise, we will be dinosaurs, the last people to charge per seat.
Here's the thing about being a dinosaur. You don't know you're one.
Yeah, that's probably.
They had no idea they were going extinct, right?
Probably.
So make sure you're not a dinosaur.
Yes, and some people that I'm talking to right now are dinosaurs. Mm-hmm. Like you leave this room and you leave the tech bubble. You talk to a normal person. They don't know what's going on.
But this is the CEO that you serve. Just from what you have experienced this week, what's the message to that CEO today?
The acceleration in AI is real, and it will have tons of effect on your clients' expectations. Now, maybe it takes a few more months or a few more years to manifest in your pipeline, but it will manifest in your pipeline. One is the expectation, for example, oh, you have a software, let me try this software. Nobody is okay anymore with a complicated way to find out what it costs and what it does. They want to immediately use it. Nobody's okay with click, book a time with a salesperson. Nobody wants to talk to a salesperson anymore. They want the information, they want to use it, they want to try it on for size. Mm-hmm. And they expect it. And this is just one example. So in a sales pipeline, from attention to nurturing, to making them ready to buy, to closing, to expanding and referral and multiplication, in each of these stages, the expectations are changing. And that is real. That is not hyped. For example, make.com is a great software. I was a happy client 19 hours ago. You see how quickly this went from happy client to gone?
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's not that you're not a happy client. It's just that it's a tool that is obsolete. You don't need it anymore.
Yeah. And we have been using that thing when before it was make.com, it was Integromat, it was built by Google. And so we were probably some of the first users because we were working with Google and we were aware of those experiments. And we like to use things that are nascent, right? And so be probing them already for our community. And so it's years of using it gone in 19 hours.
So everyone that is producing tools need to be thinking seriously about the pivot.
Forget your tools. Forget your tools. They will change in a week. So I used to say, don't fall in love with your solution, fall in love with your problems. I think that is still the case. So, for example, if your solution is, I help you, I built a calendar, buy my calendar, fall in love with the problem behind that, because people might not use a paper calendar anymore. They might not even use a digital calendar anymore. They might just say, what do I need to do today? And they get it reported.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, so if you used to produce tools, the CEO that used to produce tools
Yeah.
now need to look at what are the problems behind that I can solve,
Yes. What is
that
the
I have
problem?
unique skill sets in.
Yes. What is the problem here? The problem is this person has 3 kids. They need to go to the grocery store. If they order from the grocery store, it's low quality. So they will go to the grocery store. But while they go there, they cannot work and they have 3 kids. So that's the problem, right? They are in a time crunch. They have limited resources. Help them fall in love with this problem, which means write a newsletter about being in a time crunch, make a survey about being in a time crunch, start a YouTube channel about being in a time crunch. All these things will persist, but your solution will change. It's a paper calendar now, it's then a digital calendar, it's then a skill in Cloud Code.
Okay, things are changing really fast, giving us new opportunities, but there's no reason to stay to stay attached to any tool. We need to start thinking in process and capacity. We needed to do that yesterday.
Yes, and what you are doing, the capacity engineering, that will be even more important, because we need to be able, I don't know, the developer for me, the developer used to write code, taka, 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 for hours, taka, taka, taka. And now he just says, build this, and boom, it's there. So it's like the developer has superpowers like Jesus, right? Jesus says, Lazarus, stand up, and boom, that guy stands up. I mean, this is what every developer has as a superpower right now.
So now he needs to choose how to use it. And that's where capacity comes in. Because who will I have to become to operate at that level? Who do I have to be
Yeah,
to operate at that level when I'm not like I'm not solving tasks anymore?
exactly. And do I have Jesus level clarity? Do I have Jesus level purpose? Do I have Jesus level boundaries of what's not on my purpose?
Yeah.
Right?
And can I carry that for my organization? Because when everyone makes big strategic shifts and changes, when everyone, like when the creativity and the creation and the decision making increases on every level in my organization, I need to be stable. I need to be able to hold that space for the entire organization when I am not the one figuring out the strategy anymore.
And what is holding you back now? Your own capacity to digest change, to metabolize it. So we need to
To
work on that.
expand,
Yeah.
to evolution, right? The
Yeah.
next level of evolution for me as a human being, because that is something that AI cannot do for me.
Yeah. So I met
And,
somebody. Yeah.
no,
No,
and
go
I'm
ahead.
thinking that that is right. That is where we need community. That is where we need thinking partners, sparring partners. That is where we need someone in our in corner, because we need to own the risk of stepping up, of becoming more powerful, of carrying more consequence in every decision we make. So there needs, like, that's where the space needs to be, the white space, and there needs to be community, and there needs to be someone else to um, talk through the things and sit with it and hear someone else's perspective, because the evolution is happening so fast, right?
And there is so many moving parts, and as a collective we can see angles and report to each other, and I made a mistake, you don't have to repeat it, so you move on faster. That's why we have to hunt as a collective. That has been my feeling over the last years, that when we do these sales challenges as a collective, it's much more fun.
Yeah.
So do prospecting alone, but then you say, hey guys, 20 days challenge. What can we hunt? Who gets a meeting with the coolest CEO? Uh, it's much more fun. Probably because we are built as historically we were hunting in groups, in collectives, because you have
We
to
are
bring
social
back that bison.
creatures.
Yeah.
Yes, we are social creatures, and we do uh, we we need sparring partners. We need someone to throw the stuff at and see what comes back. And like, even when you do evolve something using AI, right? Taking it out into the real world and showing it to another human being and stress testing it. Like, does this land for you? But then there's also the internal, like, can I be all that? And so there is
Hmm.
a need for community, for holding space, because there's the risk. Like, we grow when we grow together, holding each other responsible and supporting and critiquing, right? And you cannot do, like, that part of human growth cannot happen with AI.
And
And that's why we need community. Mm.
your
Yeah.
identity shifts, right? I'm not a
It-
developer now, I'm a generalist.
yes.
So am I ready for that?
Hmm. And if I am not this, like, the CEO, not being the strategy, like the decider of the strategy anymore, now what is my role as a CEO now, when everyone else can do a lot of the thinking that I used to do? Now what is my role? It's a new definition of being a CEO. What does that even mean?
Yeah, the classic tasks of a CEO were giving direction,
Hmm.
performance culture, performance measurement systems, hiring, firing. Now, if we go through them, direction, I think that's still the thing, but also everybody is expected to think with you. Hiring, firing, not sure how many people will hire humans this quarter. I think we will get back to hiring humans, but I think this quarter specifically, most people are hiring digital collaborators. Like our team is already half humans and robots.
Hmm.
And we are late to this party because we thought, no, it's more for the developers, it's not for us. We're a service business. We don't need this. Well, turns out we need this. And so most teams will now move to being half human, half robots, I think.
Yes, and so that's the interesting question. What does that mean for the humans?
You know what's funny? It's not that different. So our Slack channel is not that different. We were maybe because we're sprinters, we were always very quick at answering each other. So if Michelle
Mhm.
pings me in Slack, she waits 2 to 10 minutes to get an answer. Now the robot takes 10 seconds to give an answer, but it's not that of a jump. The way we talk to each other, yeah, maybe less polite. There is less thank you and please, etc. It's just very direct.
Mhm.
But that's also not so uh, such a big change in a fast-moving company. So what is actually different is the cost structure, because this is
Mhm.
$90 a month to have a few more collaborators versus $500,000.
But also how you spend your time has changed a lot, and who you spend it with.
Not yet, but it will
Not yet.
soon. No, not yet,
Mhm.
because there is this, let's call it infrastructure phase.
Mhm.
And we are still in the infrastructure phase where you build the capability. So if we look at saved time, yes, it took 20%, 30% of my task, it just did them. But with those 30%, I was taking infrastructure decisions and tackling the next bigger problems. I wasn't going on holiday in that time. I was like, oh my God, what does this mean for this? What does this mean for our vendor system? What does this mean for our clients that are in software niche? So the freed up time was immediately used for the next bigger project.
Mhm.
But if you ask me in 6 months from now, probably I will have a ton more free time.
Yes. But will you also the time that you do spend, will it be spent doing different things than you do today?
Yes. So instead of writing, I talk now. Instead of uh, doing, I drink tea here and watch 3 terminals working. I mean, it's weird. My kids come in and say, "Papa, who is that that's working there on your computer?" I say, "It's 3 robots." So their picture now of work is very different than my picture seeing my father work,
Yes.
right?
Mhm. This is like, but do you find when those robots work, do you find, I'm thinking the complexity of the decisions you make is increasing? Or?
Yes, you move on to bigger problems to solve.
Mhm.
And this is exactly what this McKinsey global partner has been
Mhm.
saying. He said, okay, 10 years ago, client would ask us to improve operations. We improved operations. Now, 5 years ago, they said, well, operations we can do in-house now. We know how to do that. We can solve it on our own. But please help us with go-to-market. And they would solve go-to-market. Then they solved go-to-market and said, we can do go-to-market on our own now.
Mhm.
But please help us now double market cap. And so they're moving up the size of the problems and the complexity of the problems. And I think everybody listening to this, that's probably your journey too. That whatever problem you're solving right now for your client, you have to think, okay, in a few weeks, they can do it on their own. But what is in the same needs space? What is the next bigger problem that they have? And
Because
you
you have
tackle now
never,
the bigger.
yeah, because you have never solved all the problems,
There is no such thing.
right? It's just that when we have solved all of these problems, now the complexity grows and there are bigger problems to. It's basically, being in business means you solve one problem and the result is there's another one created.
Yes, on a higher level, you will have the next problem.
Yeah.
Like you're a kid, you
Yes.
learn how to walk. Yeah, great. Now, what about sprinting?
Mhm. And then you sprint,
Yeah. And
and
then
then
what
you
about the
can.
triathlon?
Yes. So there's no lack of problems to solve.
We will move higher. We will move higher. So and it's time, right? It's time that we move higher, because now we can think about bigger problems, like how do we live together, how do we preserve nature and balance with nature, how can we manage resources better as a planet, all these things. Now we can move up in the size of a problem,
Hmm.
where we were very like minuscule. How do we solve the accounting problem this week? No, 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 no. Let's look at our surrounding, our ecosystem. Uh, how can we build for the greater good?
Hmm.
I think that's where we go now. Um, as the small problems get easily solved or managed kind of on their own on autopilot, robotically, we have bigger fish to fry.
Yes, because what used to be a big problem doesn't even exist anymore.
Is now a small problem or is gone? Yes.
It's gone. So some of these problems are just gone.
Yeah. Example from my last week. Every year I have to do the tax report.
Hmm.
And there is one thing that's super complicated. The options income report is so bureaucratic in my country that it takes me 80 hours. Or I give it to our accounting team, but then it's 80 hours of their time. So it's still not great. This year, it took Claude Code 2 nights and it was done. So it was 10 minutes of my time, 2 nights of Claude Code. From 80 hours, we went to net 10 minutes of my human time.
Hmm.
So whatever was the burdensome task there is poof, it's gone.
Yeah. So and this is what we're seeing, right? Accounting as a task is disappearing, but understanding financial decision making and how to optimize that, that's where the accountant need to move. The CEO needs to move from creating strategy into another level of problem solving. And where do I take my organization?
Yes. And if we stay in that example, those 80 hours, I'm not going to go on a tennis camp for 80 hours. I'm going to think strategically about the options system. Is the system working well? What am I missing? Is there a better way? Because, all other traders have also 80 hours more. So they are also improving their system. They will have better decision making processes. They will have a higher bandwidth, a higher speed in decision, better strategies. So I have to go back to the whiteboard and say, okay, these are the two strategies that I'm using right now. Should I add a third strategy? Should I change one of these strategies? Uh, how do I decide right now? Do I need to improve that decision making process? And that is well spent time. And you can't really compress that. And you need time to think about that. Um, so those 80 hours will not be just erased. I will use it for strategic thinking and optimizing systems.
Yes. So it's more interesting problems to focus on.
Yes. It's more fun problems, right?
Yes.
Optimizing something that already works is more fun than reconciling two lines of a spreadsheet.
Yes. Because that's where the cool, like that's where the real human creativity comes in. The ability to create something that is completely new, not just something that is generated based on existing information.
Yeah. And this is, last week I said, guys, I'm almost not sleeping. Instead of Netflix, I'm doing this and I cannot stop doing this. It's more fun than Netflix. It's true.
Yeah.
And so it's a feeling right now like, oh, I want to know the next episode because I can't stop here because there's this cliffhanger. And that was my week with Claude Code last week, because the cool thing is you can go childlike and rethink everything from scratch. You don't have to think in the industry categories or whatever certification categories you had. It's a wide open field. And what I love is thinking from first principles. So forget everything. How can we rethink this? How can we think this from the ground up?
Yeah. Yes. That's a discussion I will be having with me today. Hey, look, people, we cannot continue. Simon and I, we are getting off of this live to rethink the next chapter.
Let's go rethink, guys. Enjoy the week. Crush it. See you next week, everyone. Keep rolling. Thanks, Monica.